solution you can get. This is Built on Blues. Built on Blues.
Welcome back to Built on Blues. I'm your host, Graeme Bryks. Usually when someone leaves a 20-year career at a Fortune 1 company, yes, Walmart, they go and sit on a bench and take a quiet board seat. But my guest today went from managing billion-dollar supply chains and building Walmart Marketplace to helping families visualize their dream homes. He's the founder of Walk Your Plans NWA, a studio where you can literally walk through your floor plan at 1:1 scale before you pour a drop of concrete. He also runs full Sail PMC, advising startups on AI and logistics. He's launching a new product called Family Journal as well. I've got Daniel LeSieur in the studio. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Graeme. Appreciate the introduction. And it's always nice to hear those accomplishments. Kind of rare, but because I don't normally think of myself that way.
Yeah,
But
of course. It's
great to
easy.
be
It's
here.
easy to, you're starting your own business and everything, kind of like forget those things where it's like, holy crap, like I actually was managing a billion-dollar supply chain. Like just like saying those words out loud, like how does that kind of make you feel?
Yeah. It makes me feel thankful that I didn't crash it. But, my role in the supply chain was really twofold. It was either focused on operations or focused on technology. And so when you're empowering enterprise software, you have to remember, and we'll talk about it throughout today, I'm sure,
hmm
is that customer focus, right? Who's using your tools? Are we making their lives better? And then if we integrate technology or when we integrate technology, is it a Thanksgiving conversation? What I mean
Yeah.
by that is it something at Thanksgiving that when somebody asks you how your job's going, you're going to be like, dude, you're never going to believe what happened. And we're using this new technology and I'm having the best time ever.
Hell
And
yeah. I love to
so
hear it.
it's definitely a unique perspective to kind of scale that into a Walk Your Plans world. But
Yeah. I want to start with that transition actually. You
okay.
spent 2 decades at Walmart dealing with the massive
Mhm.
scaling. You said to me off camera that hiring 400 people in 5 months, building that 3PW platform, that is high pressure, high stakes corporate logistics. Then you launch Walk Your Plans, which is incredibly intimate. I've talked to a lot of homeowners and architectures, and that is like a really personal touch when you're like helping someone build their home. So, was it a shock to your system to go from global supply chain efficiency to emotional home building, or did you find that the process of building a dream home actually needs the supply chain discipline?
Really great and interesting question. And I'm going to say great because I've not mentally thought about how that connects because I went from supply chain and then I went into consulting. And that's where I really got my focus on problem solving at a very customer scale versus enterprise scale. And then when we had the opportunity to review and look at Walk Your Plans and then think about the process and the potential that we could have in people's lives, it was pretty much a no-brainer for my wife and I to say, yeah, this is a solution that allows us the opportunity to be a part of their story. And so that scale just never seemed, or that slide just never seemed to be that hard, nor that much of a shock.
Yeah.
Probably because I had the time off. It had been 2 or 3 years. It's been almost 3 years since I had left Walmart at that point. So I was already working with seedlings and Series A, Series B companies. And so feeling that small business pressure and that entrepreneurial spirit was just something that excited Amy and I.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned to me that you and your wife saw this Walk Your Plans concept on Instagram and thought, how do we get involved in such a happy business? After years in retail where, let's be honest, it's a grind of quarter over quarter numbers and just logistics, logistics, logistics. What has been the most surprising part of running, a more like happy business?
It's so far, because we've not opened, we're 2 weeks away. The initial sales calls have been really exciting. Everybody wants to talk about it, and it's a great opportunity to leverage those listening skills you've heard so much about
Mm-hmm.
because you just want them to tell their story. You want to feel like you're a part of it. And so, yeah, I had a great customer the other day tell me about this remodel that he's doing that sounds completely overwhelming, but he can't wait to walk his plans. And so, It's a remodel. It's 5,100 square feet. So, it just seems magnanimous, right? When you say remodel, like the whole house.
Yeah.
So, but now I get to be part of that story
Yeah.
on making that dream come true for him. And so who wouldn't want to be a part of that process?
Yeah, and I'm sure it's really gonna, like, hit home when it is an actual thing and, like, you get to see the final product. I think that is, like, the mission is when you see that final product and you see the homeowner just, like, so happy with the product and the outcome, like, I'm sure that's just gonna, like, light more fire in you to, like, get it out to more people, right? For
Absolutely.
the listeners who haven't seen it, Walk Your Plans isn't just a VR headset. You project the floor plan at full scale on the ground. Can you break down the science of why this matters? We all think we can read a blueprint, but we can't. What is the most common no moment clients have when they actually walk the hallway and realize this is too narrow?
Yeah, it's not just the hallway. The opportunity, I guess the best analogy I can come up with is, have you ever seen a mouse run through a maze? When you take the mouse separately, you're like, man, this mouse is huge. And then you put him inside the maze, and all of a sudden he's like, which way do I go? And then you feel confined by these walls. When you're saying, okay, I need a 2,400 square foot home, do you know how big that is? Or how small that is based on what you think your needs are. And so I think what most homeowners find is the inconveniences of what was standard about their ask and then what's really come to fruition. And so they get an opportunity to walk it and feel like, okay, now there's enough room. It wouldn't take you long, Graeme, to interview people who have purchased custom homes to find out that the kitchen is probably the area of the home that they really wish they had redone.
Yeah.
And it has to do not with size, but just location. Did we put the oven in the right location? And what I mean by that is, does it block the dishwasher? Could I put both doors down? And if you can't, or, if I'm working here, am I back against the sink? So somebody's not working there. And so it ends up being a flow issue that impacts new homeowners or custom homeowners for the first time. And most people would say, hey, you need 4 feet to provide those clearances. Well, depending upon your size, you may need 4.5 feet, or you may need 3.5 feet. But being able to see that elevation and then see that on the floor changes your perspective.
Yeah.
Think about other tight spaces in your home, the bathrooms. There's only so many ways you can move a sink and a toilet. But if you had an extra foot, which way would you go with it? Or if you want a tub, or you want a jacuzzi tub, or you really just want a larger shower, all of those opportunities you can walk through. And I think one of the great things about walking your plans is seeing the elevation. So if you knew that you had a room properly drawn out and you're like, man, where is my window going to be? Is it too high? Is it too small? Is it too much? That makes a huge difference on what you're going to do in that room and how much time you're going to spend there. So there's a tremendous amount of immediate value. The fun part of Walk Your Plans, and I think almost at any studio they can do this, but it's just testing to see how large your garage is going to be. Our studio here in Northwest Arkansas, you can drive your truck in. Most trucks and vehicles are 29 feet long. Most garages are only 27 to 29 feet long. So that makes a huge difference if you like to park inside.
Yeah. No, that's so true. It sounds like your product here brings a lot of value, and I know for sure that I will be using it when I'm gonna be building my custom home. Because especially when you talked about the kitchen, that's why got pumped up, and I was like, "Oh, like the kitchen, it's the most important part in the house." But I only feel that way because I went to culinary school. I got a passion for cooking and everything, and I even have in my notes like already all the appliances I want to buy for my kitchen and how it's gonna look and everything like that. So when this gets released in a few years down the road, when I'm building my custom home, I'm going to be making sure I'm using your products to make sure that my oven door and my dishwasher don't hit each other.
Yeah.
When it comes to, so I just got you to kind of like tell everyone about your product. And then right before the call, you were mentioning how like you have a great balance of just taking kind of like 2 leads in at a day, just to kind of like, obviously tell them about the product and educate them on it. How are you handling that education and intake process right now?
So we're really managing it 2 different ways. One is social media has done a tremendous amount for us. Within or across the Walk Your Plans network across the U.S., there's plenty of traffic coming to those sites, and people are looking for local locations. We also have a really great national partnership with Architectural Designs, the website. And so you're able to go on their website and find a set of plans and then find you a Walk Your Plans location near you.
Mhm.
But locally, it's really been word of mouth, and calls that I'm getting right now a day on top of those other leads really have to do with friends and vendors who have been in that really want to see this come to fruition. And they've really been across the state. You know, in Northwest Arkansas, there's through a few primary cities, but we've taken calls from Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Jonesboro. So definitely 3 to 5 hours away. So those leads are kind of coming in. We're tracking them all through our CRM and managing their process that way.
No, that's really interesting. How do you mind me asking what CRM program that you guys do use? Just I love like getting to the nitty gritty of details just for people to understand because like I know myself when it comes to like CRMs, it's like there's so many different ones out there and like it's always hard to choose which one. So it's always nice to hear what other people are using.
Yeah. So we chose Zoho, an Indian-based CRM, and it is full of products. And so when I looked at, if I treated Walk Your Plans like I would any other consulting client that Full Sail
Mm-hmm.
would have, and looked at what do you really need to do and what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to put everything together in one application. I
Yeah.
need to track my leads and create a workflow that allows automation to create those touches for me when I can't. I needed a better way to manage my social media. It's not just, I'm sure with your podcast, you're on every crazy platform, right?
Mhm.
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter/X, and there's about another half dozen out there. And so how are we centralizing that? And so Zoho offered a social platform too. So between those two, and then it offers a books program that connects to my QuickBooks. So it manages my financials, all my bills, my statements. And so I primarily use those 3 products, but there are 50 different applications. It's intense how large it
Yeah.
is, but I will tell you that their help desk has been phenomenal, and it has helped me out tremendously. So I've got my first email marketing campaign coming up, and I couldn't figure out why this one app wasn't working. And it's because they've upgraded it to a new app. And so they do separate things, but they sound the same. And they were able
Yeah.
to work that through me in 15 minutes on Monday. And so, I mean, my email marketing campaign is to invite our vendors and everybody who's had a role in setting up Walk Your Plans to a soft launch party that we're going to host for them. So it's a really great campaign, really wanted to
Yeah.
hit home, and utilizing that CRM to make the most of it.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. It's just like I said, it's nice to hear because there are so many different like programs and platforms and services out there. And like you said, if this is one application that, you know, hones in on pretty much like one platform that you can access everything to, that's really important. Especially when it comes to, you know, you are wearing 2 hats. You're at Full Sail PMC. You advise SaaS companies on AI automation and predictive analytics for supply chains, but you also do Walk Your Plans, your local service business. How are you bringing that like big tech AI knowledge down to the local level?
You know, one of the things that I've done differently with Full Sail over the last 3 years as it's kind of evolved is I've continued to refine the objectives of my clients because they think it's huge. They think their problem or their opportunity is huge or massive. Being able to simplify and really structure a pathway to improvement has been the success of that. And so even at Walmart, you have to solve problems. You can't bite the whole whale, right? You can't eat the elephant in one bite. And so here you're taking small chunks, and you treat your clients and consulting the very same way, just like I would here at Full Sail. And so it's been pretty easy. I've also done a couple of things this year that it's a little bit different. And that is I'm only going to take 3 or 4 clients. And so I'm really becoming more specific and dialed in to what has led to success and what success means for my clients. So I think in balancing that plus what I've got going on at Walk Your Plans and then at Family Journal, which we're about a week away now from kicking that off, that'll keep me busy
Hell yeah, it will.
throughout this year. But, you know, no one wants to say you want to take fewer clients, but I just want to be more specific about why we're working together and how I can help rather than trying to be the toolbox for their product management issues.
Yeah, for sure. You teased the new product called Family Journal that's going to production soon. You've built enterprise software for Walmart, and now you're building a consumer product. What is the vision with Family Journal? Is this about capturing those like legacy moments you talked about?
It is, so, it's a sad story. It's still positive on how we got started with Family Journal, but understanding why that's important has the really kind of twisted the mission. And I say twisted it, but it's really wrung out the meat and potatoes and the meaning of what Family Journal can become. And so,
Mm-hmm.
when we found out Amy had pancreatic cancer and knowing that she's kind of the last one in her family with a few really dear relatives left, how do we leave them an impression of what it was like to grow up with Aunt Amy or their father or their brother or their aunt or uncle, their grandparents? When you think about, I went to London 2 years ago and I just saw a magnitude of old stuff. And I say old stuff, I don't mean to be insincere, but old churches and rocks and communities. And you're just thinking around that, okay, America's 250 years old as a country, but these countries in Europe have been around for centuries. And so how did they pass along information? Well, they told someone, right? And so, even the basics of Christianity is written into the stones of almost every church before we ever printed a Bible. And so when you think about all of those stories, what has gotten missed? And so how do you create that legacy in 2026? And I think Family Journal is a wonderful way to do it. So there are attributes and stories that have impacted everybody's life that you wish you could share. The problem is you don't know when that family member is going to need that story. And so how great would it be for them just to be able to pull up and go, hey, was there a time when Uncle Dan did this? And how did he approach it? And be able to search for that record and hear my voice or see a picture or read a story that I've written related to that question. And so it's become truly meaningful. There's no shortage of individuals that we've met along the Family Journal scope. In the last 3 months, we've started pitching Family Journal here locally through startup communities and groups. And I would say probably 40% of them have a family member's voice recorded on their phone, either through voicemail or text or audio. They want that connection. And so I think Family Journal is a really easy way of keeping up with that connection in a very secure way.
I love that. That hits home to me. It feels like, Daniel, every product you're coming out with, I'm going to be using here. But no, I love to hear that. Just it's about kind of continuing legacy and, hearing about those times. It's a mission of mine even right now. I'm trying to journal as much as I can just for the future of the time I have a family. I can, pass on to my kids when I'm gone, my experiences and my like memories and everything. And like I do my best to try to write in that every single day just so that, hopefully they come across it and be like, hey, like let me read dad's or journal and like see how he experienced like his travels or like the problems that he went through and all that kind of stuff. So I love this product. I think it's genius, and I'm really glad you guys are doing it because I think it is important, to like every family carry their legacy. Going into my favorite question now, the magic wand question. If you had a magic wand and could erase one operational bottleneck in Walk Your Plans right now, what would that be?
That's simple. It's sales cycle. Right now, for some reason, there is a delay. Out of the licensees that are open, and there's 26 of them, they say that their average business to customer sales cycle is a few months. And so we don't quite understand why that time gap exists.
Yeah.
And it either exists because we know that their builder can't get started, so their architect's not getting started, so they're waiting to file that permit, or they're just fact finding and they're like, okay, this is something we're going to do. I don't have the suspicion right now it's completely economic. I think it's just more related to the timeline of the build cycle. And so at our location, we're going to offer really 2 walks. We'll call it a premium walk, but we want you to walk your plans when you file your permit. So hey, this is what's going on. And then right before your builder kicks in, we want you to walk again And more importantly, with that walk with your general contractor, your subs, your interior designer, maybe the landscape architect that's putting in your pool, and refine those finishes right before you get started building. And make sure that there's nothing missed, because there can be a gap. Today, I was just scrolling through some leads, and one of the companies said it's 8 to 12 months is their waiting list. So even if you got on it today and you called me, you're walking a home that you may not be ready for in a year before you get started, and then it's another 6 months. I mean, how many of our lives have changed dramatically in 18 months? I mean, I've moved and moved back in 18 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, those things happen. So my magic wand wish would be to close that sales cycle.
No, it's fair. I do think I have a little idea that it would be permitting. I literally just got off a call with a builder in Seattle, and I asked them the same thing, and he was like, if I could get rid of one thing, it'd be the flipping permits. And he just went on and hated how long the permits take and the permits take. So I think maybe that's why. Obviously, like I I don't know for sure, but that's just an idea that I had. And then last one here, you've hired hundreds of people and mentored startups at the Fuel Accelerator. For the founder listening who is obsessed with their product but ignoring their process, what is one supply chain lesson from Walmart that every small business owner needs to apply today?
Yeah, I think there's two. I'll give you two. One
Okay.
is you need to practice from a zero-based budget, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
most founders, there's two routes, right? You're going to bootstrap or you're going to kind of go VC or private investment. You really need to think about your budget from a zero-based model and figure out how far can you go for free.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you'll really do during that process is help yourself discover what problem you're solving for others. You have a problem right now that you think you're solving for others, but once the investments start and the pressure is on, you'll begin to test and refine that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think operating from that zero-based budget will allow you to continue to go further with those dollars that you get or you've earned through that strategy. The other thing that I would think about, and Walmart is phenomenal for this, and that is years ago, and it was my signature line on all of my emails. You're welcome to go scrap 20 years worth of my emails to find it. But Walmart had a commitment to the customer, and they said always. And, so many times when you think of your signature lines, you think of sincerely or best regards or best or whatever it may be. But
Mm-hmm.
Walmart's commitment to their customer was always. And come up with a true north pin that keeps you focused on your customer. And so whether it was a peer or a subordinate or a client or a customer at Walmart or a vendor, you always had my attention. You always had my 100%. And I never gave up on that promise that the company
Mm-hmm.
once made. And I think that's going to be incredibly important as we move through the family journal life cycle, as we move through the Walk Your Plans life cycle, because you're getting into some really personal areas where where they deserve that respect. I would want that if I was the customer. And so I think that attention to detail at that customer focus level of being always committed matters. And certainly, Graham, I'm sure you've seen that in your business.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important for people to hear and obviously for myself to hear as well. Thank you again, Daniel, for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome to see someone bring that level of expertise to the local NWA community. For anyone building a home or looking for supply chain advice, where should they find you?
Yeah, you're welcome to go to Full Sail Product Management Consulting or fullsailpmc.com. Or if you're looking for a location to walk your local plans, you're more than welcome to go to walkyourplansNWA.com. And I'm happy to refer you to wherever you need to go, including Seattle. Dom runs
Awesome.
a really great studio up there, and so he'd be
Oh,
happy
yeah.
to take you through it, Graham.
Yeah, awesome. We'll link it up in the show notes. And once again,
Perfect.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Graham. It's been wonderful. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. And to everyone listening, you know the drill. Keep building, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye now.
Bye.